right, thank you so much. Here is a live studio, so you're welcome to the program one more time this morning on ITV. Yeah, we've got a foremost Islamic cleric with us this morning, and of course a political analyst, Nuruddin Asuluge. Nuruddin, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigerians.
Okay, esteemed viewers out there, the 2023 presidential election has come and gone. And no doubt that a winner has been declared, and of course he has been sworn in. We've got a president in the country now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But recently, particularly about a few days ago, we've seen the reactions and counter-reactions, you know, coming from some of the participants of the last presidential election, particularly the candidates of the People's Democratic Party, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. You know, he has reacted, there's no doubt about that. And of course, he has actually made some recommendation as far as some recommendations now as far as future elections are concerned in the country. Now, the strong point, you know, that he's holding on to is that, for example, he's calling for a one-term, you know, government, a 6 years one-term government. And of course, he also made recourse to the last confab, the 2014 confab, that it should be revisited, whereby so many things were said and were supposed to be adopted in that confab, but they were never adopted. Anyway, for us this morning, we're going to be looking at his reactions. So let's take his reactions on the focus. And of course, also look at some recommendations that he made in those reactions, whether there are anything to go by. Nuruddin, you're welcome one more time.
Thank you for having me.
Let me start by asking you, you know, the election has come and gone. There's no doubt about that, but we must keep on looking at issues here and there. Now, from your own standpoint of view, would you want to say that the Supreme Court erred in the judgment that they gave, or it was the People's Democratic Party that probably did not go about their case as they were supposed to go about it?
Well, the Supreme Court is a court that is comprised, regardless of what anyone would say to the contrary, by men who are supposed to be donning the wrapper of integrity, wrapper of scholarship, and above all, maturity. Is an institution that has over time earned the respect of quite a number of persons. The unfortunate thing is that in every contestation, there will always be a winner, there will be a loser, but more often than not, the one who loses today will become, you know, galorous in the condemnation of that institution. Those who are condemnatory of the judgment of the Supreme Court, some couple of months back, had loaded, saturated the same court with their mead when the judgment between Oyetola, who is the present Minister for Marine or Blue Economy, whatever name it goes by, and Nuruddin Adeleke, the present sitting governor of Osun State. When you look at the facts that were before the Supreme Court, which those persons had praised, in the case of Nuruddin Adeleke and Oyetola, you begin to ask the question, why the tergiversation? Why the change of position?
Yeah.
Is it because you were affected? Regardless of the party that had approached the court as a petitioner in this matter, if it was APC that was disadvantaged by the declaration of result by INEC and had approached the court, APC would have had an equivalent tax, because the way the Electoral Act is screwed, it is the one who is alleging who carries this burden of proof. And it is almost chimerical being able to establish all that you are required to do. And so the challenge is there. And until and unless we have a culture that tend to drape the electoral process with the costume of immaculateness, where we minimize the likelihood of the court declaring who is a winner, either affirming or displacing and bringing in another person. We will continue to go in this circle because the court would not run on the fuels of emotions and sentiment. They will look at the law and look at the law squarely. If Atiku, for example, in one of his outpouring, had said that the court had appeared to have pandered to criminality and not bothered about the reputation of the country, we say that was cheap blackmail. The reason was simple. The court needed to deal with the law. If a judge, for example, were to be somewhere where I had raped a lady, once he sits down in judgment over that matter, he is required to assume that he never saw me do that. If he's going to say I did it, he must become available for cross-examination. The moment he sits in judgment, whatever facts he knows about that case, the facts are immaterial. They must never operate even from the subconsciousness to influence what he does. We are regulated. The Electoral Act says 180 days. And within that whatever period, and it's simple logic for a student who is in even in the faculty of law, who is being introduced to law, is made to be appreciative of the fact that you win your case or lose it on the basis of the quality of your pleadings. And the court, except in exceptional cases where it could act so moto, don't go outside the pleadings of parties. And so if forgery, for example, a certificate was alleged to have been forged, assuming that it was a matter of fact, it was veracious, that this certificate was indeed forged, and it was not part of the pleading when you were making your pleadings, and in the course of address, when the other party didn't have the opportunity of a response or a reply, and you began to address what you did not plead, then it is rather unfortunate that you did an irrecoverable whatever damage to your own case. Yeah, and you can't be holding another person culpable for that act.
We understand that the Supreme Court has given its judgments. I mean, a president has been sworn in. But one thing that analysts will keep on looking at, and perhaps the way Atiku Abubakar has reacted to it now, it borders on reputation. If you like, you may call it national reputation, the way outsiders see us as a nation. And of course, we're also looking at issue that borders on, qualification here. Now, I know that morality is different from law. Law is totally different from morality. But let's look at it now. Are we going to be looking at a situation whereby we may want to suggest and begin to also recommend that the Electoral Act or our Constitution has to be revamped so that we do not give room. Because Atiku has, if you like now, he has regretted. And of course, he's not too happy. He has said that he wonders what the future holds for Nigeria politically. So are we looking at a situation whereby we begin to suggest and recommend that our Constitution and the Electoral Act has to be looked into?
You see, sometimes when you deal with human beings who are pathologically flexible in character, and want to pontificate on issues that border on morality, then we run into serious problem. So when you talk about reputation, perhaps if Atiku had been declared winner, Tinubu would have raised the same issue of reputation by going to the United States of America to find out what was the nature of the case for which Atiku's girlfriend or wife is serving a jail term, for which his counsel is in jail. This was pure act of criminality, which was copiously documented in Obasanjo's My Watch. And there was no refutation several years after that document was published. And so if I became aware of a particular document that was made in respect of me and I maintained taciturnity, it's an endorsement of what was said, because Obasanjo had since lost immunity. And so whatever he said that was so damaging in terms of your character. So does it lie in the mouth of the person to talk about character? But in any case, while I'm not going back for Tinubu, the Chicago State University said this guy was our student. And so what was being said was the issue of forgery. And so the Supreme Court had asked, even before judgment was given, to say, okay, fine, you are saying what you're saying. From Tinubu's own end, they have come up with another whatever. Which of these do we believe? When two documents are contradictory, assuming they had come under pleading, proper pleading, and they were contradictory, then you will have to admit oral evidence. At that material time, do not forget that ab initio, that the foundation for the acceptance of the document itself was being queried. You will not even be asking for oral evidence to find out which of the two documents was right. And so when you talk about forgery, we now ask the question, what is the nature of forgery we're talking about? That he forged a certificate. And the man said, no, I was in Chicago State University. Identity theft. They say we have evidence that the same Chicago University had deposed on oath that this man, who is the sitting president of Nigeria, was our student. And the person whose identity was allegedly stolen, who is a she, was said to have been born, was just 7 years old when the president approached the university for his education. And so could not have been the one who is the owner of the supposed certificate. So these are issues that would have been completely denuded, divested. Whatever was opaque about them would have been cleared if we had. So you can't be ambushing. In my own thinking, given the quality of the lawyers that Atiku Abubakar had, their capacity for cerebration, their prowess in terms of appreciation of the law, I think it was a studious attempt to do an ambush to see whether it was going to work. Otherwise, why were you not? I honestly cannot understand the difficulty they had in pleading. Because sometimes it makes more sense to plead what is essential and what is useless. Perhaps what is ab initio useless, somewhere along the line could become useful. And all of that you didn't do. And so when you blame, because my concern here is not about Tinubu, it's about the institution they try to disparage. That is the judiciary. And so we must do all that we can, not because we are bleeding from losses and begin to denigrate or wanting to enfable institutions, or in the eyes of the public, make them hold it in oblique.
All right, so let's look at some of the recommendations now that he has made. It was actually a long press conference that he did on Monday, reacting to the Supreme Court's judgment and all that. And of course, he hence therefore made some recommendations. For example, he's recommending that the office of the president has to be for a single term. 6 years a term. Now, this has been there for quite some time. I remember prior to the 2014 confab, a lot of persons actually also suggested that. Now, let's look at all that now, because we are looking at the political future of this country, Nigeria. Should we then say that, okay, let us try to begin to consider one term, 6 years, one term for presidents, governors, and all that, considering the fact that allegations of corruption and allegations of not doing the needful, not reaching the people's expectations and all that, Nuruddin.
Now, if the only game given for wanting to be 6 years straight term is to battle corruption, is to deal with the whole issue of sanitizing, verifying our corruption marinated environment. I ask the question, what potency does that carry? I'm coming for 6 months, 6 years. And so I know I'm not going to return after 6 years. And so accountability, transparency would lose its meaning if I don't have it ab initio. And so I'm not coming to you again. If people are not worried, they do not feel troublous about the fact that I may be rejected when I'm returning a second time to canvass for vote. And so they peculate, defecate collective resources. How does a straight 6 years stop that from happening? So I think that is a suggestion that is coming from one who is obviously desperate.
Yeah, perhaps.
I do not see what that addresses. What I think is far much more important is how do we, for example, deal with all of those encumbrances that make the institutions not work? How do you, for example, that you work in an institution? You work in an institution. I give you one clear example. You work in an institution. You are on the same grade level with another person, the same step. The month ends. The person's salary is bigger than your salary. And no explanation is purveyed why it is so. It's not that it's being provided incentive, but because there is an internal mechanism that decides on how to allocate in a way that is corruption driven. That basically is what people have queried about those who go, you know, the lecturers when they said we will not accept. That was basically the song that was being sung. That IPPS. There are people who work in an organization. Oh, you are in the same organization with some persons. The month ends, the person tells you, I was paid, though. I work in ITV. I was paid 10,000 naira as hazard money. And you are not paid. You are in the same office with that same person. The fellow gets paid. So you find that it is because institutions are weak. When Trump could not be asked to go to court because he was sitting president who had immunity, the offense committed by Trump or allegedly committed by Trump did not die. They were in incubator, kept alive. Once Trump lost the immunity, he's facing trial.
Yeah.
So, why are we not dealing with those institutions? Why are we not dealing? Somebody had said there was no money to address critical issue. The accountant general who is facing whatever, close to 200 billion resources that would have taken care of a whole lot of issues, address roads that are dilapidated across the country, was stolen by this individual. He's going about. Somebody showed him somewhere donning a turban, being honored by a traditional institution and stuff like that. So when you do all of this, you incentivize the fructification of what is evil. So it is for the people to wait. And what our problem is that I complain. If you are not at the center, no matter how closely located you are at the center, you are at the periphery. And so people tend to complain. People tend to become activists when they are not beneficiaries. The very moment they navigate their way to the center, what was bad yesterday now dawns the wrapper of
but there's
good.
no way, there's no way people will not react. I mean, when they feel cheated, they
no, it's not that they feel cheated. Because if you feel cheated, it will mean that you have identified what represents cheating, and regardless of who the victim is, you do not need to become a participant in the physicality of an experience that denigrates, that chokes you before you become solicitous for those who are the victims. And in other words, if you were one driven by integrity, you would not now say, now that I can benefit, it doesn't matter whether others suffer. That is not integrity. That is not a man of truth. And so when you have it, you do it. Like I have repeatedly said, I have a father in Benin. He was a military administrator in 2 states. He retired as an assistant inspector general of police. Every 365 days, when the documents of his vehicles expire, he renews them. Are you saying he's under any compulsion to do that? It takes character to do that. He's not going to ask you. He's not the one who will do things in violation of the rule. I drive against traffic. I say, do you not know who I am? I can call the governor for you now. You are a mean human being. And so when we talk about people who have character, we are saying they do what they do when they have the powers to do what is the opposite. I'm not generous if I only give what is superfluous to me. I'm generous even when I am in the most commodious state of existence, I am appreciative of whom I am better than, or who is in greater need of what I have, and I say take. That is the basis of Catholicity. It is nothing, not that what you do not need, you give, or because I want to hack into your space, then I begin to remote you by the things that I give to you. These are the clear issues. So what we are saying, therefore, is that let us deepen our education as a people and agree collectively, what is it that is right? When pockets of persons rose in defense of Trump, the white supremacist, the vast majority of the people, including those who voted for Trump, said, no, we will not do this. We are not going to, because of Trump, compromise the institution. Until and unless you have that critical mass of citizenry, we're not going to go nowhere. If somebody, for example, says INEC must conduct a transparent election, we ask, can INEC have the capacity to be ubiquitous? When you say, for example, Mahmoud was this, who are the compromisers of this election? Yeah, but the politicians are compromising the electors. I went to vote and I saw people who were collecting money. Some of you came to film, then you saw them. And so, like the scripture will say, we have all sinned and fallen short of the grace of God. So let us not apportion. Let us not say us and them. Yeah, it is for us to look for a collective remedy to this position, this situation that plagues us. And of course, talking about collective remedy now, we know that the presidential election has been done and dusted with. I mean, it's like we are trying to beat a dead horse now. But we must continue to talk. Because Atiku Abubakar is so much concerned about the political reputation of Nigeria. Now, in some few weeks' time, we're going to be having some elections, off-cycle elections, that's what they call them now, of which INEC's reputation one more time is going to be brought to bear. It's going to be tested again after the last presidential election. And of course, in Atiku's reaction, he also made some, reference to it, trying to see how INEC should try as much as possible to redeem its image. What is your response? You see, this is the point we are making. INEC didn't have a hand in the selection of party candidates. Did INEC have a hand in the selection of party candidates? No, we're talking about the election, the way results came. You can't have an election without party candidates. It was so if you have that attitude of do or die, there is a desperation. I say in this contest, I will outmuzzle you, dollars for dollar and stuff like that, and I win. But don't you Are you saying that if I won in the general election, I'm not going to do the same thing? No, don't you think that INEC has the responsibility when qualifications are tendered, certificates are tendered? INEC has the responsibility to, it's like you are from the University of Benin, it's like I'm a student and I tender a certain result. The school's authority has the responsibility to really go and see if that result is genuine or not. That's what we're saying. The genuineness of result. Now, do we have a result that is not genuine here? Do we have a result that's not genuine here? Anyway, we are beginning to have signals. And let's just have your take one more time, quickly. Well, my final whatever take on this is that for as long as Nigerians do not believe and appreciate that they have a stake in this country and come together to play a participatory role for us to get to that El Dorado, we'll continue to swim in this troubled water. So in this regard? In this regard, politicians will always swim in putridity. So we know them. It is for the people to say, no, it won't happen. We won't be contaminated. So if the people are compromised, you get the kind of results that you get. All right, so I want to say a very big thank you to Nuruddin for finding time to come. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for having me. All right, so the program is still on here on independent television this morning on ITV.